No. Next Tuesday. Not again.
You're allowed to walk on it, are you?
Till next Tuesday again.
All right.
Open the meeting. Welcome those present. Matthew and Ian. And advise that the meeting will be recorded in accordance with the council policy titled Electronic Recording of Council Meetings Policy. Meetings of council to assist in the preparation of minutes and ensure a true and accurate account of debate and discussion at the meetings is available. We'll be upstanding now for prayers, and Matthew from Gateway Church will lead us with prayers, and we'll have the Lord's Prayer at the end. Thanks.
Beautiful. I think this works maybe. Is
Yes.
that on? Or?
Yeah,
Great. All right, we'll say the Lord's Prayer together and then I'll follow with a prayer. Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. Amen. And Father God, I thank you so much that we get to be in this room tonight, and I thank you for every person that's represented. I pray, Lord, that for whatever issues need to be discussed tonight, that, Father, that your wisdom would be present in this meeting. And Father, I even pray that you would continue to bless this community. I thank you for the rain that we've had, and thank you for the abundance that we're having with agriculture, and everything seems to be going well. And so, Father, we give you thanks for that. And I pray that you would continue to bring the right people into this community to make it an amazing place to live. I pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, mate. Attendance, we have apologies from Councillor Woodward tonight, who's not well. Has no leave of absence. Come down to 2, confirmation of minutes of previous meeting. Somebody prepared to move those, the 21st of October.
Yes.
Thanks, Councillor Blizzard. Seconded. Yes. Councillor Poposky. No queries on the minutes. I'll put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Issues raised by Councillor Oars, 3-1-0, 3-2. There's a response there from Councillor Oldacre that's in the bulletin. Councillor, questions without notice. Are there any questions without notice? Councillor Oldacre.
Thank you, sir. My question raised to the General Manager. At the present time, there appears to be thistles seem to be getting out of control. At what stage are we going to do the spraying of those thistles? And I understand that they are some Californians and some Scotch thistles and slenders, a whole lot there. That's what's reported to us, so it's an important issue.
Yeah, I essentially follow up with Darren in terms of the weather conditions we've got at the moment, and get them attended to as early as we possibly can.
Thank you. Any further questions? Councillor Rattler.
Just a quick one. I wanted to firstly congratulate the team on the planning video that was put out to try and explain some of the complex procedures that we have to deal with, and I wondered if there was any results for the
Mr. Mayor, I have to take it on notice and follow up with action to see how many interactions we've had.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was good. Any further questions? Councillor Harris.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've got 4 questions relating to the one topic. In 2018, there was $100,000 funded by the Tasmanian State Government for a feasibility study in the sealing of the Western Explorer. The same budget, we saw $40 million budget along with $60 million from the federal government for the Marrawater Smith and Bass Highway. The first 2 questions that have been put on the record for the Minister for Infrastructure and Transport. Minister, I've noticed you have attended a lot of West Coast mining tours recently. As Minister Barnett's portfolio this is, when will you inspect your own portfolio and come over the Sisters Hills to inspect the Bass Highway and Western Explorer? My second question, Minister Ferguson, considering the feasibility study has been completed for some time now, when do you expect this to become a public document? My further two questions are to you, Mr Mayor. As the Western Explorer is one of our priorities as council, and because there's been no communication from 22nd of April when I asked this same question, my first question is, what advocacy has been given to the sealing of the road to present date?
For sealing or for getting the report out?
Getting the report, I should say.
Well, we've talked to a number of ministers every time we have spoken to ministers in the last, because this report was supposedly going to be out at Christmas last year. And so we've talked to a number of them, and I did intend to talk about it when the Premier comes up in a couple of weeks' time, because it's something that is good enough, to be quite frank about it. And I spoke to Gavin Pearce, our federal candidate, again a couple of weeks ago, and he was going to check up, because I asked him would he check up to see whether he would do effort than himself trying to get it. Haven't heard back from him, but he said.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and that just follows to my second question. When will you hold the Minister account? And I thank you for your honesty and information with that last bit.
Oh, that's fine. No, it's an issue. That's not dedication. Any further questions?
I've just got one, Mr Mayor. The West Beckett Falls, track's still closed, and I was just wondering if it's worth writing a letter to the Parks and Wildlife to get find out when that's going to be open and what the actual hold-up is. It's been shut for a long time.
Deputy Mayor asked me before, and as far as I'm, it's still closed. But do you know any different council?
No, I think it's closed when I was last out there.
Yeah, no, it'd be worth writing to the Minister.
It's been going for yonks.
Yeah, no, it's been closed ever since the bridge was.
On that subject, sir, have you had anything feedback around the milkshakes opening? And I heard today that the Linty River is open to 5 tonnes. Have you had any correspondence to say as such?
Yeah, when we were talking about it last week, I was under understanding it was going to be open at the end of last week, but and by what I gather, they did some repair work to allow smaller vehicles to go across. So I thought that was open, but I don't know when the rest of the work hasn't been done for heavy vehicles, as I understand it. But
Yeah. Well, I just picked it up by accident that it's open to less than 5 tonne. But my point is that you probably need to let the visitor centre know that it is open.
yeah, no, exactly. No further questions? Move right along. Declaration of pecuniary interest. I've got a non-pecuniary conflict of interest in 7.1. 7.1? 7.01. 7.1. That's it. No other pecuniary interest?
Oh, just 1 minute. Can I remind Tony may have one?
Yeah, should I have one in 13?
13.1.
As far as the North Management Group's
I
concerned.
believe that you might have. I would go out if I was you.
Righto, thank you.
Thank you. Any further ones? If not, we'll go down to 5, 6 and 7. I need a motion for the 3 of those.
So moved, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Rice Harris and Councillor Redman. The recommendation, all those in favour?
Aye.
Against, carried. On things that I did, there was a couple on here that I actually didn't get to. Oh, hang on, sorry. First of all, there's the workshops. Is there any questions on the workshops? No. We'll go down to my communication. The couple, I didn't get to the Tas Australian of the Year awards. Didn't get
Got
to
Hive opening too.
Hive opening. One other. Had things on at the same, on the last one, the launch of the workforce planning study didn't happen. Happy to answer any questions on any of the others. Councillor Aldo.
Mr. Mayor, in meeting with Taswater representatives, is there anything come of any of what's been raised around this table? Where has that got to?
Well, the one at Taswater was the annual meeting, and there was a general meeting. We were told that the Lake Mulcarney is started again around 3 weeks ago, and it'll take around 12 months. It's a different design to what first happened. Other issues, we sent a letter off. Did we get a letter back from?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'd have to check on that. But
We
I
need to,
also was intending to follow up the advice that we got at the last meeting in relation to Lake
Mulcarney, yes. So we'll check that through.
Mr. Mayor, just, I know we said in the debate a bit on the subject of Lake Mulcarney, but the design is they weren't going to put a boat ramp in there, but they have done, they are going to put the boat ramp in there, so all those that are interested.
Councillor Foster?
At the opening of the Hive, are you able to recall who funded the Hive? The ratio between local government, state government and federal government?
I didn't get there. That's one that I didn't get there, but the general manager went,
I
and I reckon he
prompted
can
the
next
mayor on that occasion.
do that.
It was a state and federal government and local council combined project. Local community put in $1 million. The state and federal government shared the costs up to 10.6. So the total project was worth 10.6 million.
So how much do you know how much the state government put in?
They put in 50% of the
So,
9.6.
And who owns the building?
Because
Who owns the building? Who's responsible for the
the
building?
local community.
So it's a depreciation item of the Central Coast.
anything further? If not, we'll move right along to 7.1. Councillor Redland. Notice of motion.
No,
Go
we've
on.
got later agenda items, Mr. Mayor. We need a motion to consider that.
I thought that was done in 5, 6, 7. Isn't that in 7?
No,
That's later.
no, we need a motion to accept the later agenda item.
Oh, okay.
Consider that.
Well, I'll move the motion.
Thank you.
The last agenda one.
Happy to see you.
Thanks. Any debate? I'll put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Go to 7.1 now.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In response to some of the workforce challenges, Circular Head, through their Circular Head Education and Training Consultative Committee, and with support from Energising Tasmania
Can I
funding.
get a seconder first?
Oh, sorry.
Yes, Councillor Blizzard. Yep.
Now have an overview of our main workforce challenges, those being labour shortage, skill shortage, lack of housing, participation rate and underemployment, and low visibility of pathways. These now exist in our workforce development plan and outline our complex issues, from which a 2-page summary has been circulated. It was unfortunate that we couldn't launch officially yesterday, but it is possible that, like us, our state colleagues are suffering from a lack of boots on the ground and skill shortages. To the notice of motion, some of the actions from this plan will require lots of communication and potentially changing the way things have been done in the past. It's important to be able to explain why these changes are needed. This budget reallocation will allow flexibility in the delivery of this message. So why Council's funds? Compared to the time taken to apply, deliver and report back to a state or federal body, much of our precious staff resources at the moment would come almost to the amount of the $20,000, which would be used up, and we would have to abide by restrictions placed on the grant. This way we can adapt to our community and our plan. And why now? As the months go past, there's time pressure for businesses who can't grow, and that affects not just our community but also our state and regional domestic productivity. Investing $20,000 into the workforce now and creating opportunity for our locals makes good economic and social sense. For these reasons, I ask you to support this motion.
Thank you. Any discussion?
I'd like to move an amendment if I could, to just take it to an amendment or
No.
procedural motion to take it to a workshop to discuss. Just we haven't discussed it around this table. I think it's wise to do that.
A second.
Thank you. It's a procedural motion which we can't discuss. So I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour?
Aye.
Yep. Against?
Aye.
I'll have a show of hands. Who's for that?
Deputy Mayor, would it be in a workshop next month?
Before the next month. Before the next month.
Yeah, okay.
For? Against? That is carried. So that'll be held over till next month.
So, just to
It's
clarify,
not 7-1.
It's 9-1.
that's right. Yeah,
It's
I'm
not.
just keep it track here.
Yes.
Actually jumped the gun.
Yeah, I know.
But through for the workshop consideration, in terms of that, would most likely be on the 30th of November, so not next week, the week after.
That's right.
Before the Legat meeting in Hobart on the Friday.
And then that'll come to the meeting the week after.
Yep, that's fine. Yep. Okay, good. Yep. Thank you.
Okay, now at 7-1, the LGAT General Meeting Motion Reform 2022. I'll hand over to the General Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. From the discussions that Council has had around its table in relation to the sector reform that's been considered and being promoted by the Minister for Local Government, I've penned some thoughts in terms of the dynamics that we'd like to consider, or have the Minister consider, is probably more appropriate, in terms of also putting a formal position forward to Legat at the December ordinary meeting. The report speaks for itself. There's a number of challenges in terms of the sector itself, being able to fund and appropriately respond. Smaller regional councils like ourselves, our budgets are pretty tight and committed, whereas larger metropolitan councils, to a certain extent, probably have a little bit more fluidity in terms of their resources. So I would commend the recommendation to Council.
Thank you. Somebody prepared to move the recommendation?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Bosky. Second.
Second, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. Anybody wish to speak to this?
Mr. Mayor, no, I'm just speaking for the motion that was discussed at the workshop. The report's come forward with what we discussed, so I'd like to see it move forward.
Thank you. Any further speakers, for or against?
I just want to speak, Mr. Mayor, if I could. Just in regard to, we're asking for, there's a few things on there we're sort of talking about, and we've been through this at a workshop in great detail. But the 100,000 that we expect, and that's putting a lot of pressure on our staff, the workload that will be carried out and what they're trying to do with this reform. So I think it's just wise that we are asking for that, and I think it needs to be stated that that does happen for that reason, because they're asking the ratepayers to forward the bill, and we don't think that's up for that. So I just wanted to just make that note.
Yep.
Thank you. Any further speakers?
Can I just ask you a quick
Yes.
question? In that recommendation, I know it said 100,000 across all councils, and I guess that allows for the size of the council. I feel like where smaller councils are doing the same load as the larger council, is that how we've provided for that in the recommendation? because smaller councils are doing, we're touching the same amount of policies, we're still doing the same amount of sort of lifting, I think. It's great to see that in there.
That's 100,000 each, isn't it?
Yep.
Yes. Any further, councillors?
Just a point of clarification. That 100,000, that's what we've applied. We're not worrying about what anybody else gets.
Yeah, but in the motion, it's got 100,000 for each council for the reason that Councillor Redland mentioned.
I understand that, but my understanding was we were going to worry about ourselves.
Oh, yeah.
Not to be worried what everybody else does.
Yeah, no, it's up to others. They don't have to accept it if they don't want it. No further discussion. Just from my point of view, I think that it's really important that we have this motion because when we get to the meeting in 2 weeks' time, it's going to be the whole discussion has got to be had, and whatever happens at that meeting is going to be where the sector is going to go to the government because this program is to start on the 1st of January. So it's going to be the one and only meeting we've got to have a say in what happens. And so it's important that General Manager and myself gets the opinion of the council so that we can actually speak on behalf of council with the authority of all our councillors. So I see this as extremely important document to be able, for us to be able to go and put all our cases, and we will be sending it to Legat next week so that they have what we want, and hopefully out of that will come some backing from other councils. So something that councils are grappling with all around the state, and we have a very short time to get started with the process. So nobody's spoken against it, so I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. 8 is public questions, so I don't think I need to read anything out because we haven't got anybody here to ask any questions. So we'll run 9, so I was out of order there.
11.1,
Okay.
Mr. Mayor.
We are down to 11.1, which is the declarations of office. Jim?
No, you're right.
All right.
Don't
You
go
stop here with me, Tony. You're right.
No, you stay here.
Be very careful, Tony.
No, you're right for this one.
You're right for this one. Three, Mr. Mayor, this is just a formal acknowledgement of the declaration of office that Councillor Hine has completed prior to this meeting, and I commend it to Council's consideration.
All here to welcome to witness it.
Can I
So moved, Mr. Mayor. No, you just listen for a minute. I'll take the opportunity to welcome Councillor Hyde to his first meeting, and I hope he enjoys his time here.
Thank you, but can I just point out there's a
I second it, Mr. Mayor. Carry the talk.
a typographical area there as far as on the bottom line of that page before. A date wrong. I wasn't involved in 2014.
In the conclusion. There's
Oh, in the
2014.
conclusion. Yeah. Fair enough.
Conclusion.
Yep.
He's obviously reading it thorough.
That's
only been one
All right, point taken.
Point taken.
I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried.
Welcome, Tony.
Well done, Tony.
You don't need any more copies.
We're now down to 11.2. And General Manager or Matthews? Doing this one?
Delegations.
I haven't done this one.
Yep. Okay. So thank you, Mr. Mayor. In relation to report 11.2, we have the delegations register for council's consideration. We had suggested a minor amendment to the recommendation. If that was a bit bigger, I could see it.
Well, that is
Probably the recommendation, one amendment would be that council do the delegations from page 1 to 9, which is to the general manager, and then authorise the general manager to update the ones to staff as and when is needed.
So my understanding is that we delegate to our GM what we've always delegated, and it's got to be done every 2 or 3 years or whatever it's got to be done. But there's a lot of people under the general manager that does some delegation work. But if their tenure with council completes, well, to keep it accurate, we've got to continue to upgrade it every time somebody leaves or we get new people in. So my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, which tried to, the last part of it basically states that the general manager updates it and makes it more user friendly.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I guess the council decision to delegate to the general manager is contained in page 1 to 9, and that then authorises the general manager to on-delegate certain things. And I guess that really is then the job for the general manager to manage that delegation from there on in. Whilst it's all in one manual, which could be current when it's adopted, it soon becomes out of date with staff changes going forward, so it needs the flexibility to update that.
And can it be updated could we review this at any time, or is it only every 2 years?
I think it can be done at any time, can it not?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, a request from council, you can review the delegations any time that you wish.
Yep. Yeah, that's what I'm understanding.
Yep. The recommendation for the 2-year review is to keep it as current, so it keeps coming back, so it's on a timeline, but if there was a need, you could essentially review the delegations at any point in time.
Thank you. Any further questions? Not somebody prepared to move the recommendation.
So moved.
Deputy Mayor, seconded.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Poposky. Any debate? If not, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. We're now down to 12.1, the financial reports. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to present the financial report for the month ended 31st of October 2021. Operational income and expenditure is tracking with budget, and September quarter financial reports will be presented at the next council meeting. Expenditure is a third of budget to date, with 4 of the 12 calendar months complete, and council ended the month with net assets of $241 million. Are there any further questions?
Thank you. Are there any questions on the financial report? No? Is somebody prepared to move that?
I move, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Oldacre and Councillor Blizzard, second. I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Now move to the senior management report. 12.3. Over to you. We're on page 79.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Report for council's consideration. Draw your attention to the dates that are referenced for the ordinary meetings for 2022. It's that time of the year where we're starting to think about ordinary meetings for the following year. In the report there's some feedback and replies, some learnings that occurred from the Working Together Our Future is Today local government professionals conference that a number of staff went to. Reference there, you've got Australia Day Awards. They're closing on the 15th of December, so I'd be encouraging everybody to make their nominations so the council can consider those. The Christmas parade activities and Christmas carols are referenced, and Christmas lights are actively being installed as we speak. Public Art Advisory Group, expressions of interest, applications closed on Wednesday the 17th. Team's working through that. You've got the charts, youth and 7-Up references. Also, you can see the statistics from the tourism activities, in particular the campus stats for the financial year. And you'll note in the notes there towards the bottom that the Stanley and Tarkine Forage Festival will be going ahead in November 2022, as funding's been approved by Austrade to support that event. That will be highlighting Stanley and the Northwest. And further note that under the 8 under the street food activities from the Stanley Golf Club are actually commenced as well. So that's supporting visitors to the community in Stanley and the wider area. Information bulletin attached to the report, number of letters. You'll note there, number 3, the question was asked earlier in relation to what we've done to chase up the Western Explorer. We've written a short letter to the Premier to say, look, we'd appreciate to find out where this report actually is. The others speak for themselves. I commend the report to Council. If there's any questions, happy to answer them.
Thank you. Are there any questions from councillors?
Mr Mayor, I note with interest that the lights have been installed on the Christmas/events tree. Are we going to have a special night with the opening of those lights or the switching on?
For you, Mr Mayor, I would follow up with the communities team. I think they are planning something, but it escapes me at this point in time.
Yeah, I believe they would like to at least have a photo opportunity with Mr Nielsen, who's involved for a long time in putting those lights up as part of it. But whether it be, I don't think there's been any community functions as such planned, but it actually to at least mark it with some photo opportunity.
They're going to give him the opportunity to climb the tree again, are they?
Not sure about that, Councillor Aldo.
Mr Mayor, I recommend that we do. We've waited a long time for this. The largest living Christmas tree in Australia, and I think it's been important. It's been on the agenda for a long time, and I believe it's worthy of some opening.
Yeah, GM will talk to our community services and see how we go. Noting that there aren't many days left between now and Christmas for a number of people, but we'll see.
Ms Mayor, I just wanted to say I think it's disappointing that the Smith and Carol's won't be held in. There won't be one Smith and Carol's this year, and that it's in 2 separate venues. And certainly for us, probably means after every year we attend, we probably won't attend this year. As a district that I feel needs to work together going forward with a lot of external pressures, I just think it's a shame that it's in 2 different places.
Yeah, I was a bit disappointed that it didn't go back to where we originally wanted to go, but the last one got washed out, and then last year didn't happen out at Tremartin, and that would have been a really good place to have it and good community spirit. Yeah, sure what happened.
It's probably also a reflection of dwindling volunteers.
Yes.
All these things take effort to take place, and I guess that's what's going to be discussed in the future years. What's the role of council, or what's the role of other people if we don't have volunteers to run our communities? Who's going to pick up the slack and what do we hold? What do we not hold?
Yeah. And what do we want to be involved in, and what we don't want to be involved in?
Mr Mayor, I'd just like to add, and I thank the General Manager for the outward letters to all state ministers, and particularly the email to or the letter to the Premier. And yeah, I look forward to the correspondence that we received back in for all matters, including the Western Explorer.
Yeah. I also wanted to say well done to the committee for the Austrade funding to do the Forage Festival, even though the situation in the market probably looks different to when they started the project. It's an exciting prospect, and I really hope that it reaches the target that they have suggested. good on them for having a go. I think it's great to see that sort of stuff.
Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, if I could add to that, there's a circumstance surrounding that where you could actually embed a new festival within your district to actually make that happen on a more permanent basis through that opportunity if it's successful. So there's a real opportunity there with that level of funding that's coming. So to make that sort of, I'm not suggesting annually would be nice, but we've just spoken about in terms of the pressure on volunteers. But even if it was biannually, that sort of constant, bringing people to this part of the world at that time of the year, very positive.
Can I ask, what date's that starting in November? It's probably in here, but I haven't picked it up.
Next year.
Next year. Yes.
But through you, Mr. Mayor, it says November, but it doesn't give a date. I think it's earlier in the month.
That's the reason why I asked, because you're well aware there's a big pontoon going in at Stanley Wharf, and there's probably an opportunity for this to coincide with the Melbourne to Stanley yacht race, as part and parcel of the whole thing pulling together. And but a bit of a problem with the yacht race is that it falls the weekend before the Melbourne Cup, and sometimes it alternates every fourth year. I think it's a little bit, it's the second weekend rather than the first weekend. But that's something I think we could probably build on, and I've actually talked to Greenham's in a way of, there's an opportunity for them to come on board because they've got a Bass Strait stake as a promotion for that particular, and so that's something that probably could be progressed a bit and make it a much bigger function.
I'll just add something there. It's a 10-day food-based one around the spans of regions, so that's part. It could actually work out to be that over that 10 days, that aspect of it. So
could be the start.
Could be.
Okay, any further questions? If not, have I got a second there? Yeah. No, I haven't.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Ryanceris and Councillor Redmond. I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried.
Well, they did the same thing.
Did it? Up to the
That one.
a motion in number 13, the minutes of the three committees. Is somebody prepared to move that?
So moved.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. Second. Yes, Councillor Blizzard. Put the recommendation. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. And go down now to Northern Area Management.
That's where Tony is.
Should I depart?
Yep.
Just before I go, there is a typo there as well on page 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, fifth line down on 6. It says $100 and should be 10.
Aye.
Well, that's only for you, Tony.
For allowance.
Is any debate or any queries, questions on the committee?
Just a minute. You're just doing the Northern now, aren't you?
Yep. We're just doing the Northern Area Management Committee at this stage.
Yeah, at that meeting there was a couple of points. I think it's this meeting. I can't pick it up in that. There were talk about the RV area and boundary adjustments. There was quite a split in the meeting of people not being on various committees that were involved with that. So that was referred to the General Manager for advice. That didn't believe that, because of conflict of interest, I didn't believe that they could make some of those decisions. And you would have probably received correspondence to such, have you, Scott?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, probably have received correspondence, but I haven't seen it just as yet.
So that'll be something that you'll do.
Certainly follow up.
Yes. Thank you.
Yep.
Nothing else on Northern area? Councillor Rowley.
If they come to understand at a meeting with the Show Society, I wonder about those toilets and getting them to understand what's involved here. What is your thoughts about? Do they understand, or just sort of talking to a blank wall? Sorry, I shouldn't say that, but
Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you, Councillor Aldaker. I've had one discussion so far in relation to the amenities block project that's been supported by the last state government election. On the back of that, another conversation has grown in relation to levelling the playing field grants for potential federal government funding female change rooms for that project as well. So we're getting the message, but at the same time, in the situation we will program that to be considered the first toilet block upgrade to be considered in Council's next round of budget considerations. But on top of that, there's an extra project that, dare I say, might get support in a federal election for additional investment, which will grow the depreciation on that asset. Yeah.
Nothing else, councillors? We better get Tony back. We'll go on to quickly.
It's too far away. Donkey. You donkey.
he's probably on the phone out there.
Now go on to 13.2 with Kedik meeting. I know that they've had a pretty busy time. Anything you want to say, Councillor Redland, at this stage, or questions? Any questions?
Mr. Mayor, I just commend Councillor Etland and all the Chetty committee as such that the presentations, I note that the three presenters would have been very informative, and to get the leader of the trade, so to speak, with Skills Tas and local jobs and the like, I think it puts us in good stead to get that right information to come up with planning into the future. So I commend the team on that, and I also seen in the minutes about the potential meeting with Mr. Sharman into the future, and I think just what's recorded there, it could be a very positive outcome in the fact that whether it's Zoom meetings into the future or something to at least retain young people in our district, whether it's for local sport or work straight after school. So I think that's a great outcome if we could achieve something into the near future. So I thank Councillor Etland for that and look forward to the correspondence from that.
Anything else, councillors? We'll move down to 13.3. Last meeting with Shrek. That was with a number of the area management committees, and we had discussion on some of those and comprehensive report on what was brought up at the meeting. Nothing more on that?
Yeah, I've just got a question. I noticed, whether it's in this report from the REC advisory, that the Marrawar were talking about the new fire brigade and the costs is blown up. When will it be coming to table to the council for discussion on whether we approve or not to be able to put that building on the land, and the DA and the leasing arrangements?
Well, I was told that that's come to council now, so I assume that that's...
Council Lawson.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. Following the follow-up conversations I've had with Stuart and Shane, they are comfortable to have the application proceed as it was drawn, and in that process will be the community consultation at a deeper level as part of the development application. They're also encouraging through their networks anybody who has concerns to actually express those. So I've signed off on the documentation to start the process for the application being lodged with council, so that the application will then start to move through. So they were comfortable that that's a good starting point. Dare I say, they said that there could be odd occasions where something from community comes forward and they'll consider the changes. Same with the state agencies. They were keen to start the process, so it's formally started, and then as that moves forward, public exhibition of the application and the like, and then we'll get to the point when the application gets through, we'll consider the leasing at that point as well.
So always see it before Christmas or be after Christmas?
Most likely after Christmas.
On that, just because it's on council land, we don't have to worry about depreciation side of things on that. Just a question, because it could come back and bite us if it is. I don't think it does, but I just wanted to clarify.
My understanding is that it initially it doesn't, but we've got to clarify that in terms of that investment.
That's a pretty big investment.
I would expect that we'd be leasing it to the fire service.
That's right, and that's where the lease.
Who will be leasing what?
We'd be leasing it to the fire service.
Well, if we're leasing it, we own it.
That's what I'm saying. Where does that go in relation to the building on that land?
That's what I'm saying we need to find out.
That's right. There's some additional work to be done there in that space.
Yeah, to find out, because that's a big hit.
Especially with the price of it.
Yeah.
There was another point there that was brought up from the Marrawar, the western area, was the rubbish. There were still concerns about the rubbish at Green Point. Can you elaborate on that?
They was talking about the fact that, locals do put rubbish in it from time to time, and the concerns that they have is the same as us, is that it's not just the beach users that use them, and they can see the issues with that, but they still think it's important to obviously have
I note there that they've put in a couple of mechanical installed restricted opening lids. How many's been installed? What was the cost, and where did the money come from?
I got no idea. I couldn't tell you that.
That's why I've asked the question.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Some of them have some small restrictions on opening, but we are looking at making a larger plate, because what people inadvertently are doing is opening the lid, and it's only a slight restriction, and they're actually piercing the lid with the restriction to achieve the outcome they want, which is putting larger rubbish in. So we're actually looking at having a plate made which is the same size as the lid to try and prevent that in the future. But again, it's only going to stop those people that are honest enough not to do the wrong thing. So
Frustrating.
Yeah.
So what's the estimated cost, and have we budget? Is this the budgeted item?
We don't have an estimated cost yet. We're still looking into pricing on that based on the design, but it'll go into consideration for next year's budget.
Thank you. Anything further?
So surely on that, they've got it on their additional bins are required. I don't know how many more bins they need, do they? What have they got down there at the moment? 20?
It depends how much it's been used as a rubbish bin.
And through you, Mr. Mayor, just in regard to that, we've got an arrangement with the local contractor that does the work for council, and we run the waste truck down there every fortnight, and there's an opportunity every other week to pick up surplus bins through that arrangement with the contract. So at this point in time, nobody's come back to council, Works and Services, and said we've got overflowing bins, or we haven't got enough capacity. But we rely on that feedback to enable enact the change to be made. So, yep.
Thank you. Anything further? Move to 13.4, which is Jill. Agenda for the 10th, 18th of the 10th. They're doing some very good work, actually. Any questions on that at all? Nothing? We'll move to our second lot of public questions, and we've got the same amount of people as last time, so move full steam ahead. So I guess we still need to have our motions. Matters listed below for consideration in closed meetings. Somebody prepared to move
I
it?
move.
Second.
Thank you. Councillor Aldo, Councillor Edmund. Put the motion, all those in favour?
Aye.
Carried. Closure of council meetings to resolve confidential matters. Councillor Ives Harris. Yes. Councillor Blizzard. Put the motion, all those in favour? Aye. Against, carried. Now turn